Now, setting positive intentions. A lot of people, rightfully so, think, I want to get rid of this depression. I want to get rid of this fear. And they're so focused on the problem, they forget to decide what they want to feel instead.
Okay.
And I find it much more helpful to state, I'd like to feel more peaceful. I'd like to enjoy life more. I'd like to feel light while I walk, for example. You're defining possibilities now. And so you are inviting these positive feelings into your body so you understand what you're aiming towards. When you say, I'd like to get rid of this depression, you're fighting and you're depressed, you're re-depressing yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're reminding yourself that this is what you have and it's not going away. And so setting a positive intention is looking for the state other than what you're in. So I always tell people, because people say, I don't want to feel this way, or I don't want to feel not something. Yeah, not negative. And I say, well, instead of not something, what would you like to feel instead? What is that thing? Give yourself, your brain, your mind, and people the opportunity to experience what you would like instead. And some people feel really vulnerable in the beginning doing that because maybe they've been hurt so badly, abused like intensely. And so even asking for that, I want to be, it's too scary for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I acknowledge that fear in some of you listeners, right? And I totally acknowledge that and respect that. And what I'd like you to do is give yourself some time to just experience or take a risk. Yeah, play around with the possibility of saying, I'd like to feel, you can even say, I'd like to feel something different. If you're too scared to say, I'd like to feel beautiful or accepted or welcomed, I'd like to feel something different. That creates a subtle movement.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it invites the possibility in the mind for a higher vibration of thought.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And it clearly illustrates the power we have within us, and the power that it's immense. And you certainly figured out how to tap into that. So we appreciate your wisdom. Let's talk.
Very powerful.
Yes.
Just the language themselves will alter your consciousness and your entire life.
Exactly. And I love that your exercises are, they're simple and small, beginning, easily defined. And I do believe that if listeners will practice them, that they will see a huge shift, and then bigger things can happen. So I totally get that. There's so much in here. I've got so many questions. So I know your time is limited, but can you say a little something about being grateful? You've got that in there. I really want to ask you about that.
Gratitude, my God, it's a surrendering. For me, it's an act of surrendering. We are so fixated on solving our problems, and part of our problem solving skills comes from identifying the problem. Unfortunately, we become stuck in that situation, and that develops a dark cloud over our eyes, our perception.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an act of, it's a, how do I say, it's an effort sometimes to be grateful, to remind yourself to be grateful, because it almost involves surrendering your problem solving skills and putting something aside and saying, wait, what am I grateful for? And a lot of people are scared about being grateful because it means that the problem that exists, it doesn't have to be dealt with anymore. It's almost like they're letting go of the problem, and that's very scary because it's like, no, I have to deal with that.
Right.
So I'm not going to ignore your issue. It's just like, look for what you are grateful for. And there's multiple studies done on gratitude where people with depression, when they practice gratefulness, there is a reduction in depression and fear and anxiety. And what happens with gratitude, of course, is you're coming out of the stress response again, right? Because you're actually tapping or connecting with something real in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I'm grateful for water. I'm grateful for the shower. Some people find it very difficult to think about what to be grateful for. And I always say, just be grateful for in the moment things.
Okay.
I'm grateful for whatever you see, my fingers.
Right.
I'm grateful for, and people will say, that's not good enough. That, be grateful for even just that, don't shut it down. Don't shoot yourself in the foot because you cannot come up with grand things to be grateful for. And you don't have to be a martyr. thinking, oh, I should be grateful for my food because people are starving in another country. No, don't do that to yourself. Yeah, that's not your mission on earth. It's not to be a martyr or feel guilty about what you're grateful for.
Okay.
Yeah, so slow yourself down and pick little things. And if you can pick other things like a car, a house, a good relationship, whatever it is, then be grateful for that too. There's no pressure.
Okay. Could we say that listeners could be, and we could be grateful also for our fear, even though it's really causing this huge disturbance for many people? In some sense, that would be surrendering and maybe creating and opening a pathway to living in spite of fear, overcoming that fear, however you want to frame that. But can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. Okay, so I've done this exercise, like I Skype with people for psychotherapy. So I do this often when somebody's really stuck and they're complaining about the fear. It's like, okay, that fear served a purpose at one point in your life. You know, that fear made you avoid this certain bad person.
Yes.
And this fear prepared you, and then they get a realization, wow, okay, yes, that's what its purpose was. And I bring them to awareness of the present moment. And how do I say this? They realize that event is over, or that threat is not there anymore. And rather than saying that fear shouldn't be there anymore, it's like, wow, I can feel that it did serve a purpose. So they honor it. And in the honoring, there's an allowance of letting it go, actually, strangely. It's called the paradox in psychotherapy.
Could you say that, repeat that, the paradox, what was it called? The paradox of change. In Gestalt psychotherapy, we encourage somebody to feel what they don't want to feel, and stop resisting it. And that in itself allows the dissipation of what they're fighting against, because the more you resist, the more it persists. Yes.